Adrian Vale had built his fortune the way most people built walls, brick by brick, with precision, pride, and a quiet hunger that never quite satisfied. He owned mansions, yachts, companies, and a reputation for being both brilliant and ruthless. He was the kind of man who never left anything to chance, especially not people. So when Lena, the new maid, stepped into his mansion for the first time, Adrian didn't greet her like a normal employer. He watched her from behind the curtain of his study, the way a chess player watches a new opponent. She was young, but not naive. Her hands were steady, her posture calm. Her eyes moved like she was always calculating, but not in a threatening way, in a careful, respectful way. That calmness annoyed him, because Adrian had never trusted calm people. Calmness meant control. Control meant secrets. He waited until the afternoon when the house was quiet. The staff had gone home, the chauffeur was away, and the only sound was the soft tick of the antique clock in the hallway. He placed his safe on the living room table, opened, unlocked, and exposed. Inside were his most valuable possessions: a stack of cash, a small diamond necklace, and a box of rare coins he'd collected from around the world. He positioned it in plain sight, as if he was inviting someone to take it. Then he returned to the shadows. Lena moved through the house with practiced grace. She cleaned the floors, dusted the shelves, and polished the mirrors. She did everything with a quiet dignity that seemed almost too perfect. Adrian almost felt impressed, but he pushed the feeling down. He didn't want to be impressed. He wanted to be certain. When Lena reached the living room, she stopped. Her eyes fell on the open safe. She didn't touch it. She didn't even breathe faster. She simply stood there for a moment, staring at it like she was looking at a temptation she had been warned about. Adrian held his breath. Lena walked closer, but instead of reaching into the safe, she did something completely unexpected. She gently closed the lid. Not locked it, not sealed it, just closed it, as if she didn't want anyone to be tempted by what was inside. Then she turned away, continued cleaning, and acted as if nothing had happened. Adrian felt a strange mix of anger and relief. He had expected greed, desperation, or at least curiosity. But she had shown restraint. She had shown respect. He leaned back in the shadows and watched her disappear into the hallway. For the first time in weeks, Adrian Vale felt something he had not felt in years. Uncertainty. 2 days after Adrian's silent test, the mansion felt different. The air was heavier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Adrian watched Lena move through the rooms with the same quiet professionalism, but now he noticed details he hadn't before. The careful way she handled delicate objects, the softness in her footsteps, the way she always seemed to be thinking about something far away. He called her into the study with a simple request: "Organize my study." Everything must be perfect. Lena nodded, her face expressionless, but her eyes showed a flicker of fear. She entered the study and began the task. Adrian had chosen the room deliberately. It was filled with priceless artifacts, rare books, and fragile antiques from his travels. He wanted to see how she handled pressure. Lena moved slowly, dusting the shelves, aligning the books, and carefully arranging the artifacts. She seemed almost reverent, like she was handling sacred items. Adrian watched from the doorway, waiting for the moment she would slip, the moment she would break. Then it happened. A sudden sound shattered the silence, a loud crash followed by the sound of porcelain breaking. Lena froze instantly. Her hands flew to her mouth. She turned toward the source of the sound and saw the broken vase lying on the floor in pieces. The vase was one of Adrian's most expensive possessions, an antique he had bought on a trip to Europe. It was beautiful, fragile, and irreplaceable. Lena's eyes widened in horror. She had not meant to touch it. She had not meant to break anything. But it was broken. She rushed forward, kneeling on the floor as if the vase was alive and needed to be saved. Her hands trembled as she tried to gather the pieces, but the porcelain was too shattered. She began to cry softly, her tears falling onto the broken fragments. Adrian stepped into the room, his expression cold. He looked at the broken vase, then at Lena, and spoke in a tone that was both disappointed and cruel. "This was expensive," he said. "You could have ruined everything." Lena bowed her head, unable to meet his eyes. Her voice was barely audible. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. I'll pay for it." Adrian felt a surge of satisfaction. He had been waiting for this moment, the moment she would show her true nature. But instead of feeling victorious, he felt empty. Lena continued to cry quietly. Her shoulders shook with guilt and fear. She looked up at him, and in her eyes he saw something he hadn't expected. Not greed, not desperation, but deep sorrow. Adrian's heart tightened for a moment, and then he pushed the feeling away. He wanted her to break. He wanted to see her become someone he could dismiss. But she didn't. She simply whispered, "I'm sorry." And for the first time, Adrian wondered if the trap had trapped him instead. The next morning, Adrian woke up with the same cold certainty he always carried. He believed the world was built on control, and he was the kind of man who wanted to control everything, even people. But the accident in the study had shaken something in him. Not because Lena had broken the vase, but because she had reacted with genuine fear and remorse. He had expected anger, greed, or indifference. Instead, he saw sincerity. That sincerity made him uncomfortable. He decided to test her again, one final time. "Lena," he called, voice calm but firm. "Come to my office." Lena entered, her hands folded neatly in front of her. Her eyes were red from crying, but her posture remained respectful. She looked tired, but she did not complain. Adrian sat behind his desk, watching her like a judge watches a defendant. He spoke slowly, as if savoring each word. "Do you know why I hired you?" he asked. Lena swallowed. "To clean the house, sir. To help you." Adrian's lips curved into a small smile. "No, I hired you because I wanted to see if you were loyal." Lena's face changed. Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if she was trying to understand what he meant. Adrian leaned back in his chair and opened his safe again. This time, he left it half open, the contents clearly visible: cash, jewelry, and the rare coins. He didn't hide it. He made sure she could see everything. He watched her carefully. "Take what you want," he said softly. "You've been working here for 2 weeks. You deserve something." Lena stared at the safe. Her breathing became shallow. She looked like a woman standing at the edge of a cliff, trying not to fall. Adrian waited. He expected her to reach inside, to grab something quickly and run. He expected her to be weak. He expected her to be like everyone else. Instead, Lena stepped closer and closed the safe door gently. Her hands were shaking. "I can't," she said quietly. Her voice was full of emotion. "I won't take what isn't mine." Adrian felt his heart skip. He stood up slowly, walking around the desk until he was face to face with her. He looked into her eyes and asked, "Why?" Lena looked down, then back up again. Tears formed in her eyes. "My mother is sick," she said, voice trembling. "I'm not here because I want to steal. I'm here because I need work. I don't want your money. I want your respect." Adrian didn't know what to say. He had expected greed. He had expected desperation. But not this. Lena continued, "I don't need your pity, sir. I just need you to see me as a human being." Adrian felt a strange pain in his chest, like something inside him was breaking. He realized that the test had never been about her. It had been about him. And now, for the first time, Adrian was unsure if he was the winner or the loser. The mansion was quiet again, but Adrian Vale's mind was not. He sat in his office long after the sun had set, staring at the safe like it was a puzzle he could not solve. He had always believed that people were predictable, either they were loyal, or they were not. He had believed that wealth was the ultimate power. But Lena had shaken his world with a simple choice. He replayed the moment in his mind. Her hands closing the safe, her voice trembling as she refused his offer, her eyes full of tears and dignity. Adrian realized something that made him feel both ashamed and stunned. He had set the trap not because he suspected Lena, but because he suspected himself. He feared that if he left temptation in front of someone, they would take it. He feared that the world was full of people who would betray him if given the chance. And he had built his life around that fear. But Lena had proven him wrong. The next morning, Adrian called Lena to his office again. She entered with the same respectful posture, but her eyes were wary. She didn't know what he was going to say, and she had learned that Adrian's words were rarely kind. He motioned for her to sit. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice softer than it had ever been. "About what happened." Lena stayed silent. Adrian continued, "I tested you because I didn't trust anyone. I'm sorry." Lena blinked, surprised. She looked at him as if he were a stranger. "You don't have to apologize, sir," she whispered. "You don't know me." Adrian nodded slowly. "That's the problem. I never tried to know anyone. I only tested them." He opened the safe one last time and pulled out the small box of rare coins. He placed it on the desk in front of her. "I want you to have this," he said. "Not as charity, as a reward." Lena's eyes widened. She stared at the coins as if they were a dream. "Sir, I can't accept this." Adrian leaned forward. "You can. You earned it." Lena's voice shook. "I don't want your pity." Adrian's eyes softened. "This isn't pity. This is respect." Lena looked down, tears falling silently. "I came here to work. I didn't come here to be tested." Adrian nodded. "And you shouldn't have been." There was a long silence between them. Then Lena spoke, her voice barely audible. "Thank you." Adrian felt his throat tighten. He had never been thanked in his life. Not truly. He realized, in that moment, that he had been lonely all along. He had built walls so high that no one could reach him. He had used fear to control people, but he had never learned to love. He looked at Lena and felt tears finally fall from his eyes. He didn't understand why, but he knew one thing. He had lost the war against his own heart. And for the first time, he didn't mind.